So today we're having with us Omobola Omofaiye, and she is the Chief Commercial Officer of Arnergy. She's a business leader and strategist with the acumen of leading and building businesses across West and Central Africa. Her varied wealth of experience cuts across different industry sectors, including ICT, financial services, power and energy management, oil and gas, and renewable energy. Omobola joined Arnergy in August 2020, and her primary responsibility is to formulate and drive the company's commercial and growth strategies. She also leads Arnergy's sales and marketing activities, as well as maintain oversight of customer experience and brand management initiatives. Since joining the company, Omobola has made remarkable progress in driving market engagement and visibility, growing market shares, building a robust sales pipeline, and driving double-digit top-line growth for the business. Prior to joining Arnergy, Omobola has held leadership roles in a number of blue-chip multinationals, including Schneider Electric, Somfy, and Vodacom. At Schneider Electric, she was responsible for the end-to-end management of sales and operation of the IT business in Nigeria and Anglophone West Africa. In this role, she successfully managed and closed several transactions, including $5 million switchgear deal with MTN, $8 million data center deal for a major Nigerian bank, and $25 million deal with Main One Data Center, which is the largest data center in West Africa. Omobola was also the country head West and Central Africa for Somfy, and in this role, she was responsible for the growth of the business, business operation, business development, sales, and marketing strategies. At Somfy, Omobola recorded several achievements, including double-digit growth in market share, 100% growth in sales, and sign-on of new strategic partnerships that led to closing a multi-million-dollar smart building solutions for a major oil and gas company in Nigeria. Omobola holds a global executive MBA from the Manchester Business School in the United Kingdom and a bachelor's degree in electrical and electronics engineering from the University of Ilorin in Nigeria. She is also a fellow of the Institute of Management Consultants, Nigeria, and a member of Energy Institute. Kindly join me in welcoming Omobola to present her technical paper today. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. We'll be discussing the managing rising energy costs in Nigeria by leveraging renewable energy technologies. I would just like to put some context to it, and for us to just have like a high-level overview of what the energy situation is in Nigeria. For the people that live in Nigeria, and maybe for people that have a bit of interaction with people that live in Nigeria, or for people that have lived in Nigeria before, you will agree with me that one of the major infrastructure challenges we have in Nigeria is power. And this is not just affecting individuals alone, it's also affecting entrepreneurs, is affecting businesses, is affecting corporations. And this is majorly due to the unreliable national grid, operational bottlenecks, poor infrastructure across distribution and transmission corridor, which is posing a major challenge on how we consume energy and how we live with it. It's expected that people want to stay productive in their businesses or at home. If you need to do some work at home, or even if you need to run your home efficiently, you agree with me that you also need power. So people are also seeking alternatives, and the traditional alternatives that we currently have, which is majorly fossil fuel, is also very expensive. So we have people using diesel generators or petrol generators. And in recent time, there's been a huge escalation on the cost of diesel generator, and even the petrol prices. There's been significant increase around the prices. So again, it poses a lot of challenge on both businesses and individual, because that means that you're exposed to a lot of costs You can't even plan. For people that have budgeted maybe a particular amount of expenses on energy in a year, by the time you're mid-year, because of the exposure you have to those fluctuations, you find out that you're having to spend more. And for businesses, is also eminent that this will also affect profitability, because a lot of businesses invest heavily on power infrastructure to keep their business operations running on a day-to-day basis. So this is pretty much how the energy structure in Nigeria looks like. We have the generation, you have the transmission, and you also have the distribution. So in terms of what we are currently generating now, there's still a huge deficit. So that means generation is not even sufficient. And because of the obsolete infrastructure that we have, there's usually a huge loss between energy generated and what is transmitted and what gets to the consumer at the end of the day. So you just see some figures on my screen, and approximately about 30.9% of people in the rural area and about 80% of people in urban areas have access to electricity. So that means there's still a huge deficit, and definitely there has to be alternative that is sustainable and can also provide reliable power solution to people. They can consume it in an efficient way. They can run their businesses sustainably and also stay profitable. So this alternative that is strongly considered and that is viable, one of the renewable energy sources is solar. We have quite a number. We have wind, we have biomass, we have geothermal, we have quite a number. But in terms of viability and in terms of infrastructure adaptability, I would say solar comes in more handy. You can have modular solutions that small businesses can use, medium enterprises can use, corporations can use, and individuals can also use them. So this is the simple architecture of what the solution looks like. We have the solar panels themselves. Most times during the installation, the solar panels are installed on rooftops. For places that do not have adequate rooftop, we can install the solar panels on a carport. And for places that don't have carport, we can also construct solar gantry for the installation of the solar panels. So what the solar panels does majorly is to generate. However, the energy generated is usually DC, but what we use in the homes to power load and in on major businesses, except the telecommunication base stations that will actually power the load there with DC, is majorly AC. So the blue box here, you have the batteries, that's the storage, and you have the inverter solution and an embedded charge controller. So what is generated here is fed directly into the inverter, and the inverter converts the DC to AC current that can be used directly in the homes. This means that while the solar panels are generating, you can either supply to the load directly and it starts to power the load, and the excess is stored into the energy storage system, which comprises of the batteries, the inverters, and you also have the charge controllers that does the control to ensure that the batteries are not overcharged or undercharged. And also, because it's a hybrid solution, we set the grid to be like the backup. So that means if you choose to use your grid to charge your inverter solution, that's also a possibility. So this is a simple architecture of what the solar solution looks like. And because of I would say our weather in Nigeria is very favorable for this sort of solution. And we've also made a huge success of this solution because the adoption in recent time has also increased as one of the sustainable means of generating energy for commercial purposes and also for individuals. It's also important to highlight that the solution is built to be an intelligent one. we have an IoT-enabled solution. So that means you have a monitoring solution embedded in that system. So it's not just a solar box, but you have the monitoring solution embedded. The customers can monitor this solution remotely. So for instance, if you have a deployment in Nigeria and you live in the UK or in the United States, you can actually view your solution from your mobile app. So it's either you download it on an Android or an iOS, or if you wish to download it on your desktop, that option is also available. You can monitor the performance of your system. You can see a whole lot of features, what is going on, and you can also control. So again, this is one of the unique features of the renewable energy solution because it gives an individual control over their solution. You can manage your energy. You can generate, you can, I would say transmit, you can distribute it within your own load and you can manage it. So is that effective? I would just like to speak again to some of the potential around renewable energy in Nigeria. So we know that as the population of the country grows, and we're also faced with the intermittent and uninterrupted power supply, then there's need for alternative technology that can also help and support businesses, both in the urban cities and rural cities for improved socioeconomic outcomes. Before now, solar has been mainly applied on a small scale, cycle, maybe approximately 30%. Then for small household solar system, about 70%. However, there's a whole lot of development going on around the mini grid space and the grid space solar. They begin, as in we've seen a huge adoption around this segment of the market. And in the next few years, I'm sure that the growth will also be very, very phenomenal. So like I said earlier, the adoption has increased. A lot of more people leverage this solution to support operation because on a long run, it is cost effective and is also more sustainable. Then solar is now increasingly used in Nigeria for a wide range of needs, from powering water pumps, refrigeration, irrigation, telecommunication, commercial and industrial application, as opposed to the myths in the past that renewable solar does not work. We demystify that myth that the solution is very effective and the solution can support any form of operation long as there's proper analysis done before the solution is installed. Definitely before the solution is installed, we do like a technical site assessment of the facility or the location where we need to install the solution. After that is done, we do the analysis. And once the analysis is done, we are also able to come up with a design, technical design of the solution for specific needs. So the solution is that viable, and depending on the need, we are also able to profile a solution that can solve the problems in the power space. I just put here some few benefits of the solution. Generally, we know that renewable energy, using them or adopting them, will definitely help around reducing carbon emission and pollution globally. It also helps in improving quality of life metrics for both clients and for any other person that adopts this solution by providing cleaner air and reduction of hazards. It improves business and economic outcomes by emphasizing reliable energy for productive use. It also helps around reducing OPEX, especially for businesses around target business clusters. It helps SMEs to run profitably with flexible payment for energy services. Of course, the solution comes with a lot of protection. It can be monitored online for energy management. And because the renewable energy space is also evolving, there's a lot of job creation going on in the sector, also adopting the youths in terms of helping them with internship programs, training them, and also making them market ready. By the time they are out of school, then of course, employment can come in very readily for them. Then it also helps to reduce energy poverty from the bottom to the top of the pyramid. Then perfecting our, so as an organization, we have also perfected our role to become a distributed utility that can also help reduce the pressure on national grid and provide power to all of the sectors as required. So here I put up a cost benefit analysis on the solution, just for us to have an idea of how this solution is doing vis-a-vis the traditional energy generation sources. Because I'm sure some of us might have interacted with people that use solar, or with people that run solar companies, or you know one or two people that work in solar companies, or they also assemble inverter. One of the major feedback we get from the market is the initial capital outlay of the solution is perceived as expensive. But again, expensive is relative. If you look at it on a long term and what you tend to save. So here I have the initial acquisition cost of a solar solution to be about, of a 5 kVA solar solution to be about 5.1. However, if we look at the diesel generator for the year one, maybe approximately 700 or slightly more now. Then I pegged the diesel price at 800, which I know is higher than that now. So if you look at it, you have to buy your diesel. If you maybe at 2 liters per hour, you have to burn diesel. So I did a calculation. If you're doing that for in 12 hours, this is what you will have spent. If you're fueling your diesel per week, about 144,000. And if you're fueling it per month, you will have spent over 500,000, about 537. But if you look at the solar part, it's not applicable. So once you buy your solar, it starts to generate, you're utilizing it, it's powering your load. You know, at that point, there's really no need to start to maintain. So it's not applicable. So if you consider fueling it per year, you will have spent about over 6 million, which is not applicable here. You will definitely service your generator. There will be wear and tear. For instance, if I just pegged it at 10,000, if you're paying your generator service person, maybe about 10K, you will have spent about 120,000. However, for the solar, cumulatively, the cost of maintenance for a unit is about 102,000. So if you are servicing and repairing for about 5 years, you will have spent about 600K. For solar, you will have spent about 408,000. So in terms of the system lifespan, a diesel generator, maybe it will hover between maybe 3 to 5 years at the maximum. You'll be, thinking about changing it or replacing it at that point. But for a solar, is about 12 years plus. Then the total amount spent, on acquiring the diesel generator with the cost of maintenance for a diesel generator in the first year is about 7.2. For solar solution is almost the same as the first year. After 5 years, you would have spent about 36 million. For a solar solution, you will have spent about 5.5. So, and if you look at the cost of acquiring it is about 5.1. So in terms of the maintenance, you will see that is low. So if we consider what the total savings is, if I do like a deduction of the 5.5 from a 36 million, I'm sure I'll be saving close to about 30 million plus in about 5 years. So these are the ways we break down this analysis to consumers for them to see what they stand to gain in terms of the value, and to see that there's also return on investment if they're able to sort of go for this sort of solution. Number one, it just helps you and takes away the bottleneck of regular maintenance, replacement of parts, and it gives you that convenience and the reliability that people seek for. Here I've put together some case studies just for people to see what it looks like in terms of deploying solar solution to live site. So this is a Pi Express site. It's like a mobile food on the go outlet. So this is what it looks like. These are the panels, but you will not see the box here. The box is sitting within the building itself, but this is what it looks like. Then this is right food. These are the panels on the rooftop. And these are the battery energy management storage. So this is like a 50 kilowatt peak solution and a 30 kVA inverter solution. This is the farm. This is what the inverter solution looks like and installation on the rooftop. This is for a healthcare center as well, a 63 kilowatt peak and 60 kVA inverter solution. This is for SAF. ICT center is also a big capacity solution. This is a school. It's about 102 kilowatt peak and 120 kilowatt. So this school is totally dependent on solar. They do not use grid at all here, and it's also a boarding house. And I think this deployment has been there for over 5 years. And aside maintenance, we've not had any major call outs that the system is manufacturing or he went down. So again, that's to speak to the reliability around the solution. So I think this brings me to the end of the presentation. Thank you very much for having me. I don't know if there are questions, comments, or feedback from anyone on the call. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Omofaiye, for the nice presentation. This is quite interesting and it's very applicable to our everyday life. For the question and answer, I will hand over to my colleague, Engineer Ikechukwu Monday, who will take us through question and answer. So, Engineer Monday.
We have some interesting questions already. Please, if you have any question, feel free to indicate by raising your hand so that we'll take your question. And this is from Michael. His question is, to our presenter, what is your view on application of this system to large-scale power generation?
All right, thank you very much for
yes.
that question. Yeah, 1 megawatt, and yeah, so yeah, of course. Solar deploy. Okay.
Look, then the second part of his question is also, what is the future of wind power generation, both fixed and floating winds in Nigeria?
Okay, all right. So I'll take the first question in terms of using solar power solution to power industry and maybe heavy duty equipment. I would say for you to do that is best or is important that you engage a solar company that has the expertise in delivering such a solution. Before the solution can be delivered, a detailed energy audit needs to be done and possibly data logging. So a data logging can be done depending maybe between a week and 2 to gather data and to also understand the trend of your consumption and also understand the load profile of that industry. After that is done, we have softwares that we can use to also analyze the data, then build a design that will be purpose fit for that specific factory. So in a nutshell, to answer that question, it is a possibility. Then in terms of the future of wind, I know that a whole lot of work is going on to also develop other areas of renewable, not just solar. I know solar is very common in Nigeria. However, the other renewable energy sources, I tried to touch on that a bit earlier. I think most of them are paper heavy in terms of the infrastructure that will be required to actually set this up. So I know a lot of work is ongoing to ensure that we also can leverage other renewable energy sources. I know the Renewable Energy Association of Nigeria is also doing a whole lot of this. They put groups together to see how they can build on this and for that solution to also be available to us in Nigeria. So I think because of the heavy technology involved, it might take us a bit of time, maybe not on the short term, but I know that in the medium term is something that can be achieved in Nigeria. Thank you very much. I
Thank
don't
you.
know if I've been able to answer those questions.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
Thank you very much for answering. Another question comes, what is the lifespan of the batteries in your system?
So I projected about 12 years plus, but it has a 5 years warranty. So the lifespan is 12 years plus with 5 years warranty.
And another question is, what's the composition of the battery? Are they lithium cells or normal? What kind of battery?
They are lithium ion batteries.
Okay, good. And comment from engineer Abaji. He said, many thanks, my chairman, for acknowledging me. Great work and application of alternative power via solar solution. I have used this solution for my home for the past 5 years and has proven to be very reliable and cost efficient. So somebody from our guest is confirming that.
Thank you, sir, for that feedback.
Has been using this system for 5 years, so it's a proven technology. There's a question not directly to this presentation, but on the webinar. Yes, someone asked, how can I get the presentation?
Wonderful.
And how do I subscribe to other webinars? Basically, our presentations will be in our all our social media channels, but specifically in our YouTube channel, NSC Glasgow. You will get the full presentation and other of our previous series of presentations there. And also on our YouTube, on our Facebook, on our Twitter handles, we always announce our webinar series, which is on a monthly basis. So keep up to date on our social media handles and you will get most of those, our previous and current webinar series. Thank you. So that's to answer the question to the people asking how they can have access and for future. Anybody? Okay, there is a hand up.
We have Sally Babango.
Mr. Engineer Sally, can you unmute and ask your question?
Yes. My name is Sally Babango. I'm one of the members of the NSC Glasgow branch. I recently completed my MSc program at the University of Glasgow. So interestingly, my MSc dissertation was on tidal barrage, which is very directly related to the renewable energy. So this is what gives me a lot of interest in the renewable energy sector. So I quite like the presentation, and thank you so much for the presentation. You've spoken about the merits or the advantages of the renewable energy, probably and most especially the solar energy. What are the demerits, the disadvantages of the solar? I understand, like in the southern part of Nigeria, we have intermittent availability of the sunlight. Does it affect the performance of the solar panels? And what are the other possible disadvantages or demerits of the solar energy? Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Engineer Saleh. So just to be modest, I would say that the merit actually outweighs the demerit. However, you're very correct around the south. They have slightly different weather conditions and heavier rainfalls in their own part. However, that's where the technology one comes into play. Then number two, the design of the solution. So like I said, we have different softwares that we also use in doing the calculation, dimensioning, and because solar irradiation differs from north to south to east to west, we make sure that we factor that in when we're designing solution for that part of the country. So for instance, say maybe in a place like Kano, if you're going to require the same solution, and I'm proposing maybe like 6 panels to a customer in Kano, if I'm proposing a solution to somebody maybe in Akwa Ibom, that's in southern Nigeria, I might then have to increase the number of panels to ensure that the generation is also adequate. Then the sophistication around the solar panel itself has evolved over time. So monocrystalline panels are used for the deployment, which they are more efficient than the poly. So that means even if it's just like a very little rays of sunlight, it will still generate. However, during the system sizing, it's important to put the insolation of each state into consideration before designing solution. And that's what we also do to be sure that the system will provide, they are reliable and also sustainable for the people in that region.
Okay, thank you, madam. Sorry, there are a few hands up, so we'll take two at a go, then you can answer after the two questions. I start with Kunle Adebajo. Can you unmute and ask your question?
Thank you very much. I'm on the road, so I hope my network will
yes, it's clear. Go ahead.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you very much for the presentation, and I think you've done a good job in selling the merits. I do have a few comments though, and I think for those of us who have been making use of it, one of the big problems still remains that of the batteries. Not only are the batteries expensive, but they tend at times to be a bit erratic, and sometimes the lifespan given doesn't meet up. You just find that the batteries are bad and they have to be replaced, and that changes the entire calculation that is done in your spreadsheet. But I also feel that the example you gave us could probably have been altered. You've given us 5 kVA. I think if it had been 10 kVA, which is probably more realistic for those who may want to use maybe one air conditioner or a fridge, freezer, and a few other things, I think you'll find that the results may be different. And then finally, I have some contention with your estimating the diesel generator to only have a 3-year lifespan when you've generously given 12 years to the solar system. I think nobody uses their diesel gens for just 3 years. In fact, you'll find some grandfather diesels are still operating in Nigeria, at least, where mechanics can continue tweaking and replacing parts. So those are just my basic comments. That I think when we can sort out the battery issue and get it much cheaper and more reliable, I'm sure it will be a no-brainer that the solar solution has to be the way forward. Of course, we all know that this is also very good for the environment and for sustainability of the world. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
All right,
thank you for the question. Engineer Shego, can you also drop your own so that she can take both questions together?
Okay, mine is just a quick one. Do we have regulations as regards the deployment of solar in Nigeria? Do we have any regulations that is guiding the deployment? And for example, I know that there may be restrictions around installing solar near airports and some critical facilities. Do we have general guidance, and what are these? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Engineer Shego and Engineer Kunle. I don't know if I may ask. I would like to know the sort of batteries you currently use. Are they lead-acid batteries or lithium-ion batteries? So I can just speak to that.
Yeah, they're definitely not lithium batteries, no, okay, which are even more expensive.
Yes, so the lithium-ion batteries are more expensive, but they are more reliable and they are more durable. The reason why I asked is before now, about 7-8 years ago, we also used to deploy lead-acid batteries in the market. However, after maybe about 2 years or slightly more, you will usually get complaints from customers. And most times about that time, they have to swap out those batteries and maybe invest in buying batteries again. And also on the reliability, we usually will have quite a number of call outs around the reliability and also support for that solution. However, because of the advancement in technology, we have sort of moved away completely from lead acid batteries to lithium ion batteries, which are more reliable. There's a caveat, they are slightly more expensive, but in terms of the reliability, the warranty and the guarantee you have on it, I think is more. And again, it can also give you and provide the sort of backup time you also need. So in terms of the cost benefit analysis for a 5 kVA system, if need be, we can also include one of the, on one page for a 10 kVA solution, so that when the presentation is circulated, everybody can also have that at the same time. And speaking to the lifespan of the generators, yes, I know that there are some generators that will also outlive maybe 5 years and above, but again, in terms of wear and tear, for some of them, it becomes more imminent at those stages. But for the solar, we know that the lifespan is usually a long time. For the panels itself, they give like a 25 years warranty on it, but on the whole solution, conservatively, we give about 12 years plus. So in terms of regulation, yeah, there are quite a number of regulations also supporting the deployment of renewable energy in Nigeria. I know that if you need to deploy mini grid, there are some specific regulations that guide it, and there are some certificates that the developer must have before you are allowed to build mini grids. And in terms of the environment, the impact, those are also other considerations that are brought to fore before installations are done. That's why those assessments are done, and to ensure that developers and technology companies can also abide. Then for installation of solar solution above 1 megawatt as well, I know there are also regulations around that, and detailed documentation has to be done and approval also gotten before that can be done. So I will say that there are different regulations that also guide the deployment, and it's mandatory that all the developers and solar technologies must abide for those installations to be done locally. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we will take one more question because of time. Then our chairman will give our national executives some time for some comment or question from them. Then I'll hand over back to my colleague, Engineer Shego. So, Engineer Siji and Jorin, can you ask your question? This is the last question. The rest questions, feel free to type them, and then we'll come back to you. Through the presenter will answer them, and we can always provide you the answers later. So go ahead, sir. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Excellent, excellent. Good evening, Madam Engineer. Thank you so much for a very, very informative presentation. It was quite thought-provoking. Now, my question at the moment is, are you aware of any installations in Nigeria presently where solar power, solar energy is being used for heavy industry? And when I say heavy industry, I do not mean like the 5 kVA, 10 kVA, small domestic or mini office supporting units, but proper industry, refining, manufacturing, and the likes. And then secondly, if I refer back to a comment you made in your presentation, you talked about carrying out data analysis and acquisition and analysis for existing facilities to deploy the solar solution. What about where you have it as part of the front-end engineering design? Have you ever deployed it in that manner, as in part of the original facility design, instead of it being an add-on? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Engineer CG. So to your question, I would say yes, there are quite a number of companies in Nigeria, especially on the industrial part, that currently uses solar. So I would say to manufacturing. So for manufacturing companies, some FMCGs, for their big industries, I know quite a number of them that I might not be able to mention specific names on this call, but there are quite a number of them that currently use solar. And there are also some that we're also in conversations with to also deploy solution some to the tune of 1 megawatt. So to your question is a yes. Then your second question about having the solar solution as part of the initial plan, for instance, for a project, of course, that's a possibility. And we actually even prefer that sort of arrangement, so that as the building is coming up and you're also working on your mechanical and electric part, and also trying to sort out the power parts for the building, the solar solution can also come in at that point, and the design can also be done so that holistically it can be reviewed. Because on your design, there are also several considerations that needs to also be put to fore. And those recommendations can then be made so that when the building is completed, you do not have to start to make alterations or start to spend again in terms of providing infrastructure where the solar panels will be mounted. So I would say, I think is important especially for big projects, is important to have that discussion and consideration from the onset. Is usually better.
Before I say the final words, I will probably just want to give our presenter just 1 minute if you have any word to say, and then I'll give a vote of thanks and a final word, and that would end the technical presentation for today. So Mrs. Omofaiye, I don't know if you have 1 or 2 words you just want to say before the last.
All right. Thank you very much. So I'm happy to also be in the midst of other engineers. I know that we are very pivotal to the sort of change we're seeking in Nigeria. And in terms of the technology, I believe we can bring the best technology and also adapting it to our own situation in our home country to ensure that we can make things better, especially in the aspect of power. I'm sure after power, we also can look at mobility. The EV is also something that is globally adopted now. How can we also replicate such in Nigeria? And moving to smart buildings to ensure that buildings even are efficient, and overall we can achieve sustainability as a country. And I look forward to that, I would say, workshop. If the workshops are available, I'm happy to be a volunteer on that. But it's very important that we collaboratively work together and bring on those solutions, not just discuss them, but let's bring those solutions that can actually move the country forward. Let's bring them forward and let's also execute them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Omofaiye. On behalf of NSC Glasgow branch, my chairman, Engineer Steve Ugwuanyi, and all the ESCOs, we want to really appreciate you for your time, for your knowledge, for your experience, which you have shared with us. And we believe that, well, this is first of many. So whenever an opportunity comes, we would be eager to knock on your door and hopefully get a response from you. We want to thank everybody that has been part of this technical presentation today, all our national ESCOs, deputy president and vice presidents, and all mentioned previously. Thank you for your time that you have joined us today. I want to believe that you have gained 1 or 2 things from this technical presentation. We will be transiting to our general meetings, and just like my chairman has said, if you're happy, you can stick around with us and just observe our discussions and all that. There will be, just watch out for this space, and we will try to reach out to everybody as we usually do. There are so many webinars, quite interesting, just like my chairman has mentioned, that are lined up throughout the year. We've got also industry visits. We would wish that we could bring everybody from everywhere, but we will keep all this information circulating so that we can generate more interest from everybody. So on behalf of NSC Glasgow branch, on behalf of my chairman and all the ESCOs, thank you for your time, and we'll be looking forward to see you on the next webinar.